Alright, YouTubers, I know this is probably going to be a very controversial episode in my series, but I had to get this out. I couldn't any longer allow just one side of the coin to be the face that everything sees and everyone sees. Now, I know there's been a lot of controversy over the fact that people won't stand for the anthem. And we all know that the anthem itself is not bad, and that it stands for the people who served. However, in saying that, there is another side that you have to hear. It's high time people stop assuming that the reason these people aren't standing for the anthem is to disrespect. They mean no disrespect. If anything, they're truly standing up for what they believe in and what those people in the past have fought for. And the reason I say that is because America is not the way it should be. We are not a free country to do as we please. People have decided and dictated what our lives will be like. People have decided that race, creed, ethnicity, religious, and every other political aspect and religious aspect that you can imagine. How is it any different than the magazines that portray skinny women to be the ideal person? How is it any different that the beautiful people are the ones that are portrayed in magazines and there aren't any ugly people? There aren't any people who with perfect imperfections. There aren't any people with maybe a little overweightness. There aren't any people with a cleft nose or a cleft chin or a buck tooth in magazines. How is that not portrayed as beauty? Because it's not beauty in the eye of the beholder. It's the same for the anthem. The anthem stands for what they fought for, and unfortunately, as it stands, it is not being stood for what they fought for. If our forefathers were alive today, they'd put us to shame by the massive inconsistencies of this government that allow Muslims to be portrayed as sadists and terrorists, that allow blacks to be considered nothing more than a racial problem, that allow Native Americans to go unnoticed, or that allow whites to do as they please. Just because you are white does not give you supremacy. You are no different than anybody else. You bleed the same blood. Hell, half of your blood probably came from whenever it got transferred from one bag to another. You don't know if the person was white, black, Caucasian, Asian, any of that. You don't know what their race, creed, ethnicity, religious, or political background was. Same with the flag. The flag stood for freedom. It stood for peace. It stood for people who died. And unfortunately, those dead would be crying in their graves if they knew the sad, sorry, sick state and corruptedness of this country. If they saw the stupidity of people's ideologies and ethnicologies and religious ideologies getting in the way of just being human. What right do you have to decide what's bad and what's not? What? Because you're not Muslim? Because you're not Catholic? Because you're not Christian? Because you're not sadistic? By Satan's standards? What right do you have to decide another person's religion? What right do you have to decide somebody's political background, or their standpoint and views, ideologies? What right do you have to oppress and desecrate other people's proof of life? What right do you have to make a flag stand for tyranny? Force people to stand? Force people to sit? What difference does it make? It's tyranny. That is what America stood for. The lack of a tyranny, the lack of oppression, the lack of freedom. It stood for peace. It stood for prosperity. It stood for the dead. Sure, they respect the flag. They don't respect the people who tarnish it with their actions, with their corruption, with their tyrannistic and isolationist type behaviors and actions. Their words that mar and painfully stab a wound worse than a dagger could, worse than a sword or a knife or even a gun could ever do. So yeah, they're right to not stand for the flag because it doesn't stand for what it once stood for. It doesn't stand for freedom. It doesn't stand for peace and prosperity. It doesn't stand for honor. It doesn't stand for hope, love, compassion. All of that is lost on the corrupted officials who try to dehumanize even one person. To dehumanize one person makes you less of a human. You have no right. No God, no sun, no earth, no planet ever gave you a right to decide what's right or wrong. To dehumanize another just because you don't like their views. You are nothing more than the demon that spawned you if you do that. How dare you chastise those because of their religious belief? How dare you admonish those because they choose not to see things your way? How dare you force your beliefs on another? Isn't that what we teach our children? Isn't that what our parents taught us? How dare you? I speak for all living and dead when I say, how dare you?